accountable are the coaches that you're paying thousands of dollars a month for. So it's really important that the things that we push on you and teach you and really try to train you on are reinforced, and I believe Gary's probably going to be the perfect candidate to show you and reinforce that information. So, without further ado, Gary Massa.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Jason. I'm really honored to be speaking in front of all of you guys today. I do have to say, even though I'm honored, we're going to talk a little bit about success and we're going to talk about discipline, right? But I do not consider myself successful yet. I have big dreams, I have aspirations. I look at a lot of my peers and I see some amazing things being done at so high levels, and I've been aspiring to do that for so many years, and it's all about trial and error. In fact, I failed. I still consider myself a failure, and I fail all the time, every day. And that the day that I realized that that was okay was the day that my business started growing, okay? So we'll talk about a little bit of those failures, but first Jason asked me to give you a little history of myself. So my love for real estate came from my father owned a concrete construction company when growing up basically. When I was 9 years old, he had me digging ditches. It was basically a little babysitting pattern, for him. But had me digging ditches. I learned how to pour concrete. I learned about construction. Watched my uncles frame homes, and we watched basically, homes be built. And my understanding of real estate back then was you either owned homes and rented them out, you built them or sold them, or you just owned it and lived in it, right? When I learned I think I was 21 years old, that you could be somebody's agent and represent them on the sale, I got super excited. But then I also learned you probably won't get paid for about 6 months to get your business started. And trying to put myself through college and living situations, I said, I'm gonna have to wait, right? So ultimately I ended up getting into finishing my program for business, and I started working for an organic chicken company. Sorry, you guys can laugh. I sold chicken. Everybody laughed. It's funny, right? But it was one of the largest organic chicken producer companies in the United States. And I had the Southwest territory, so I was down here in San Diego, LA, the desert, Arizona, all the time. I traveled a lot, and they were trying to move me down here to, open up the area a lot more than what we had. Well, about a month before I was supposed to move, I had an apartment set up, had it all lined up. They pulled the plug and tried to offer me a job in Chicago. I mean, for a 25 to 26-year-old person, it was a great job. I just was not moving. I was going down to San Diego for the weather and sun and beaches, and then going to Chicago. It's a great city, but I was not about to go into the snow, so I quit. And I made the move down here to San Diego with my wife, and I started at a mortgage company. It was like one of the, I wanted to get into real estate at that point in time. I knew I had an opportunity to make a transition. And I made, I basically risked it all to join into this mortgage company. So I sold loans for about 6 months. We were like basically a boiler room, chop shop, call all over the United States, try to sell, subprime mortgages to people who really didn't need them. And I just didn't really, jive with that. But I wanted to learn. So they put me into the back office. I basically ran all of their business operations. I set up their FHA department. I was selling loans on the secondary marketing. I was underwriting, and I had no business doing any of it. But the point was, I learned. I learned about real estate. I learned about the financing. I mean, I wasn't making any money, and sometimes we work really hard and not make any money just for the sheer sake of learning something about an industry that we're passionate about. Okay? So let's fast forward. I started real estate in like 2007, I was working for the lending company for on a contract basis. I had it set up pretty well so I can start the real estate portion of it. That was late 2007. Great time to start real estate, right? You would think. But again, it was something that we could learn. I learned a lot during those times. Started doing a lot of short sales. I worked for I started working for a smaller brokerage, boutique brokerage, and he was my mentor. Great guy, we had a lot of fun, but he had me kind of running and building his business for him, and I still knew nothing about real estate. I wasn't getting the training that I needed. So I finally left and I went to, can I say Prudential?
Yeah, go for it.
So I went to Prudential, the other company, before company. And shortly after that, I needed a mentor. I needed somebody to help guide me because I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I had only closed a couple of transactions, maybe 6 my first year, 6 the second year. And I started working with the Houston team, and they started guiding me and helping me really understand about about real estate and what it took, what it really meant, how to build a great business. And as things grew, let's see, where am I at here? So I wasn't really seeing the results that I wanted, right? So like I was maybe hitting about 10 transactions, but it was really hard, and I wanted to just go to 20 and 30, and I saw, my friends, making all this money. And I remember, my wife was like, every year, when are you gonna make some money? Like, this is ridiculous, like we're barely making it here, and we're having kids and all these things. And there was a day that, like right before Christmas came up, that I was literally like dead broke. My wife said, if you need to quit and get another job right now. And I said, basically, I failed, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make this work out. I said, if I don't make $100,000 next year, then I'll quit. Well, that year I got really serious about coaching. I, really got into putting some good mentors around me, people within the coaching program that I had, like as my accountability partners, and got really serious about it, and made my $150,000. And so every year after that, we've had, basically an incremental and like it'd be about 2 years of the same production, and then the next year double. 2 years same production, next year double. And so I had my best year, not this last year, but the year before. And when I talk about being successful, people come and say, well, you've done all these transactions. We've had high, luxury properties. We've sold, a number of volume. Still to this day, I've been trying to get to, 60 transactions, trying to build a team. I've failed, started over. I've tried, different areas or different marketing strategies, failed, started over. And I think the point that I'm trying to make with the failing is that you have a chance to learn, right? And if you're not willing to pick yourself back up after all those failures, or willing to make the mistakes and the failures, you're most likely not going to grow and go any further, in your career. So don't be afraid to fail, all right? Okay, so one of the things that in getting into the discipline about about a business is that, and my background was business management, right? And so the thing that I realized really early on was about systemizing things. Okay, and this even came before the coaching, but at the same time I realized that when I was only even doing 6 or 10 transactions, it was, okay, I got a listing, what am I gonna do? Figure it all out. You get through the process, you sell it, and then you get another listing, you're like, shit, what did I do again? I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear. Okay, sorry, I'm Italian, I get a little out, so pardon me. Anyways, so, it was going backwards, and it was spending all the extra time to redesign or develop what I had done before to replicate the actual sale, replicate the buyer. And I found myself like with all these clients, nothing was closing, and just going absolutely insane. And I am not a multitasker by any means. I get distracted so easily. So for me, I have to have things that are set up, a system in place. And so probably like my last, I guess it was that year 2011 or 12 when I really started getting serious, my coach recommended that I needed to systemize my business. So I hired somebody to help put all my systems into place, so where when I took a listing, I went through the alphabet of all the steps. When I took a buyer, I did the same thing every single time. I didn't have the time to put it all together myself. I kind of put together the bare bones, but I hired that person to help me systemize the business, and that's when things really started to take off. That was just the beginning of the systemization, right? So the next thing that I learned that really changed my business in that 2011, 2012 year was mindset. So you got to be the rock for yourself, right? There's things in our lives and our past that keep us, like you heard the term limiting beliefs, that keeps us from believing that we can reach this goal, that we can make money, that we do deserve to have this sort of success. And there was a lot of stuff in my life at that time that I paid more attention to that was just dragging me down, being able to release that, right? But I was getting in with clients and I was like frustrated about something else, or I was stressed out, or whatever the case, and I'm just a bull in a china shop. Blow up the deals, losing clients, you know what I mean? It's like, what I learned was they need us to be the rock for them in the transaction, right? The entire time. When things get stressful, we have to be the strong person. We have to show them it's going to be okay. And at the end of the day, we've got to win that talk with ourselves that, amongst all the other crazy stuff, we are strong in the head. We can get through this. It's not all, doom and gloom. You just have to have a strong mindset. And when I learned that, when I started to learn that, things really, really changed. So getting into the regimen of mindset was the first part, right? And it was about creating the environment for myself to really help me think clearly, to help me perform at my best. Because, I mean, we get really, really busy, right, guys? Like, we have 10 different clients that we're working through. We have family stuff, we have the fun stuff, we have all these different things. And if I felt that if I wasn't really sharp and having that conversation with myself every single day and doing the things that made me feel the best, I couldn't perform. So here's basically what my coach helped me set up, okay? I'm just gonna read it to you for bullet points so I don't miss any of it.
Write this down.
First of all, the thing that, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a quick funny story, and this is why I'm really good friends with Tom Ferry. So I went like in that end of the year on just like December 2011. I go to a quick little event over here at Del Mar, and Tom Ferry was giving it. It was a smaller event, and I just got back from a little trip up north to see my family. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. I was just not in the right mindset. He goes, "Hey, how's things going? Give me an update. And I just basically started bawling. I was like, everything's a mess. Like, I can't do this anymore, etc. He gave me these couple of things to do, and this is like what I feel really changed it, for me. So first off was my journaling. Okay, so every morning before you open up your emails, before you do anything for the day and start bringing in all the drama that can affect you, write down 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for, and 5 to 10 what am I thinking of? The gratefuls and
Affirmations.
Affirmations. Thank you. Why am I forgetting that? Anyways, so that way there, you're basically building your brain. You're taking in the things that you're grateful for, the good things in your life, and reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing and how great things really are. And then affirming some of the things. Like some of the things that I affirm is like, I'm going to make this amount of money this year. Like I'm going to do this goal. I'm going to do that goal. And it reminds me like what I'm doing, why, and like my brain is always thinking about it. But that helps me feel pretty darn good before I get into all the drama for the day. Script practice and role play, and we'll talk about the scheduling of this stuff later on, but I don't feel that we're ever too good to learn and ever too good to practice, right? Baseball players practice, everybody practices. We don't want to practice on our clients. And I found that if we can learn the right conversations, it just comes to us naturally, and we can, build more rapport with them and close more transactions just by the sheer nature of the beast there. So the next thing, for me, it's the gym. For some people it might be yoga, but something like athletic or something to kind of release that tension of energy. For me, I go at, I get up at 4:15, 4:20 in the morning. I'm there by 4:45, 5 o'clock. It used to be like 4 a.m. I was at the gym, but I'm getting a little too old to do that stuff now. But anyways, for me, the gym is a release. And I know if I don't go first thing in the morning, I'm not with it all day, right? And for you, it might be just taking a walk in the neighborhood. It might just be something, it's about getting the blood flow and doing something that's good for yourself as opposed to just bringing in all the drama. For me, it's scheduling. Like I said, there's a lot of chaos in my daily activity between, I've got 3 kids, a family, coach baseball, and the work and a lot of other things that I have going on. If I don't have it scheduled, I A, don't do it, and B, I get sidetracked and I come back, I'm like, wait, what was I doing? And then I'm starting on this next project, or I'm starting on this next thing. It helps keep me focused. Time blocking goes along with scheduling, and the accountability, right? So I had an accountability partner from Fargo. He was a high producing agent, and we talked for about 3.5, maybe almost 4 years. He's 2 hours ahead of time, so I would talk with him at 4 a.m. He would be at 6:30, talk about what we're going to do for the day, and then we would text in the evening about what we accomplished. Our team does that now every single day. You got to start the day with intentions and have somebody hold you accountable for it. So at the end of the day, did you do it? Not all the time are you going to accomplish all of those goals, but at least we tried. We set out during the day with intention to take our business one step further. Okay, and okay.
Can I jump in for a
Yes,
second?
please.
It's important that if you don't make those goals for that day, that you don't get down on yourself and let it hurt you the next day.
That's exactly right. So you can't, let's say you're in an accountability with a team, right? Like I've been in accountability partners or groups where there's 10 or 12 people. Some people are crushing it. It's like, I'm hitting this goal, I'm setting all these appointments, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. That's not the point. It doesn't matter. The point is that you're starting with the intentions. You're not putting so much pressure on yourself that you're mad at yourself by the end of the day, but being able to come back and review later on, why did I miss that? Why did I not, what took my attention and how can I change that the next time? Okay? So the other thing that always made me feel really good was keeping my pipeline full, right? Like when we have business in the pipeline, you feel really good about the activity, but it's by doing that, and this was one of my biggest problems that I had to resolve, and still work to this day, is resolving that roller coaster, right? Like that we work really hard, we get clients, we're working, we close 4 or 5 deals, and then shit, what happened? There's nobody in the pipeline. Where's my next deal coming from? What I learned was that's a result from focusing on the escrow or focusing on trying to bring them through the rest and not managing new business, right? If we don't continue to bring in new business every single day, having those daily conversations, you're gonna have those lulls in your business, which will literally crush you, either mentally or physically, or take you out of business. And I've been there 3 times now, okay? Just to be real. And then goal setting, goal review. So it's, when I learned to plan for my goals, I think it was maybe around 2010, 11, and I got serious about it in 2012. Every year I put together a business plan. I've had to actually make it a little bit more simplified because I tend to overthink things and take way too long putting it together and all the numbers and the spreadsheets, and my coach is like, dude, just stop it. Just put together the plan, make it make sense, and you gotta follow it, right? But with every plan, you need to have the accountability. So you need to bring it out every single month or every couple weeks, break it down by week, and know what you're supposed to be doing, the activities, where you're supposed to be at in your, whether it's your door knocking, your farming, are you sending out the mailers that you're doing, are you doing the open houses, are you on plan? Like I said, you gotta track yourself, right? I brought a tool, I only brought a few, so I'm gonna have to email it to you guys if you want it, but my tool for my accountability and tracking with myself is this. I'm gonna hand out a few of these if you want to do that. Start that way.
Just pass around. No, he'll send it to me, and I can send it to all the mentors, and they'll send it out to their teams.
So here's a few of them. Pass them out.
Make some copies.
There you go. Okay, so for me, my tracking, I know it's a bit antiquated, but this is how I keep it together, okay? So here's just a basic spreadsheet. It can be changed in any number of ways. For me, it has basically every single day of the week on it. It has my 3 different sections or 3 different categories of clients or people I'm trying to connect with, right? My lead follow-ups, my past clients, and my new contacts. I have a certain goal, like every day or every week, of how many I'm trying to hit on that. I divide the lines personally between buyer and seller, and I make a tick mark. I track how many calls did I make that day, how many attempts, how many messages I've left, how many people did I talk to, just to make sure that I've hit that goal. Somebody calls me back, there's the tick, right? And then there's a space down there for who do we want to follow up with this week, what are the prospects, who are the clients that we need to work on, and I have a section at the bottom like says leads set up into website, appointments set, seller appointments, buyer appointments, my hours of power, how many hours do you dedicate to actually lead generation a day? I usually get about at least 1, and I'm shooting for 2, 2.5. I'm trying to double that currently. And then I add a couple different lead systems so I can track where those leads are actually coming from, okay?
Can I interject for a
Yes,
second?
sir.
And I apologize, I'm gonna keep doing this.
No, please do.
What is your hour of power? We hear about it a lot, but we don't really understand it sometimes.
Okay, so you can call it basically whatever you want, but for me, it's just the lingo that, from the coaching program I'm in, that makes sense, right? So it is a solid hour or solid period of time where you're focused on that lead generation. Not like you make the call, you talk to somebody, then you get up and go to the bathroom or get some water or whatever the case, because that just disrupts the pattern, right? We have a good phone call and somebody says, oh, I want to sell my house. Can you do the CMA for me? We're tempted to just jump into it and want to respond to them right then and there. You should have like an email or something set up to them. It's like, hey, great call, thank you so much. I'll be right back with you, but here's my contact information, like we're set, right? So then you go back later on in the day, like maybe 1, 2, or 3 o'clock when it's not optimal to reach people by phone, and actually then follow up on all of that. So you can you know what, great call, boom, on to the next. And you keep going. So I use a dialer system, and we do like neighborhood circle dials. We call non-owner occupieds, we do expireds, FSBOs. I mean, there's no really wrong way to generate the lead or get information into those dialers. It's going to take you a lot longer to to dial by phone with your fingers, Or, I mean, even door knocking. You go out for 2 hours, I mean, that is an hour or 2 hours of power, right? It's just dedicated focus on lead gen that's not interrupted, okay?
And you do that every day.
I try, there's some days I miss, right? But I try to do that every single day.
And you put that into your daily schedule with the time blocking.
I'm gonna show you guys my daily schedule and time blocking here in a minute so you can see how that works out. But okay, so on the back of this, I personally just write down everything I need to do for the week for my listings, for my buyers, and all of the projects that I have going on. And that's the other thing about setting up, okay, so let's get into scheduling and time blocking, right?
Yeah, please, thank you.
So, like I said, if it's not in your schedule, it's not gonna happen. For me, I get distracted, I won't stay to it. You can't set up your schedule Monday morning. I found when I've done that, again, let me just break it down. I'm not perfect, okay? There's days that this does not happen. There's weeks that falls apart. Last week I got back from New Orleans and it was just a rough week altogether, okay? But it's not about being in that position forever, getting back on track, right? So let's just be real. But the thing is that, where was I? Oh, so setting up the schedule. This should really be done like Friday afternoon at the very latest on Sunday, right? So you have your week planned out, so Monday morning you can basically start, boom, and you can just be as efficient as possible throughout the entire week. I found that when I plan it on Friday, at least you can review what you did for the week, what you missed, what you need to do for the weekend, and then my weeks start on Saturday, essentially, right? Because we work on the weekends. If I'm not working on a Saturday, then that will be like my week start and go forward. But it always has to be planned out, right? We have to have the intention, we have to know the clients that we're trying to reach out to, who's my next person that we're moving to the next stage in the game, what do they need, who do I need to be this week to make this happen, all right? So,
that was a good question that you ask yourself. Who do I need to be this week to make this happen? That's
That
the
is
question
exactly
we should all
right.
ask ourselves every day.
okay, so this is a snapshot. Can I get this bigger? Anyways, this is a snapshot of what like my time blocking will look like for the week, okay? So on Sundays, I will put all of this together. I'll put in the things that I have to do, okay? So like the gym time is automatically already recurring. The daily follow-up for today and plan for tomorrow, that's also a daily thing. It can be 30 minutes, it can be an hour, whatever you need to do, but we always have to like basically cash in for the day and realize what did we accomplish, what did we miss, and what do I have to do for tomorrow, okay? So those are always already plugged in. The different things that we have our team meeting always plugged in. So for me, all the blue stuff is like my lead gen, our script practice, our in-office stuff, right? I try to color coordinate it because I'm just very visual and I miss stuff all the time. So, let's see what else we have here. So I fill in all the stuff that I know that I have to do, and I try to leave holes for appointments. Then as I'm going through my schedule for the week of what projects I have to do, what clients I have to attend to, I know I've got to do a CMA for somebody, I've got to do this for whatever client, I will plug that in. Like, I'm going to be previewing homes for a client. I'm setting that up over here. We have photos for another property, so I plug in all those things, and then we have the holes, right? So I also try to make sure that my lead generation time is at, early in the morning, which is typically the best, or later in the afternoon. So I come back and our script practice for our team is Tuesday mornings at 8:30 and Thursday mornings at 8:30, and then we go into our lead gen time for, at least an hour, if not more. Okay, if you got nothing else to do, lead gen for longer, at least until 11, okay? So those things are actually plugged in automatically, but then I come back and I put all the appointments or the time frames I need to spend on different clients' things, and then I come in and plug additional lead time. Okay, I have lead gen time here, I've got lead gen time there, going to the pitch session over here, I plug in all those additional items. But you want to leave a little bit of room. You don't want it to be completely filled up all day long, otherwise, like, we do have to work on our own client stuff at times, It's like we generate a lot of clients, but we also have to give time to, convert them and continue to help them through, right? So leave a little bit of time to do that. Maybe you schedule it or leave opportunities for appointments. Best times for appointments are the afternoon, right? Like 1, 3, or 5. But at the end of the day, we all know that sometimes we need to make adjustments according to our client's schedule. But that's up to you. You can control your schedule as much as possible. And when clients, if you have this set up, it's connected with your phone. Can you meet me at this time? Look, no, actually, I only have this time available. Instead of you making appointments, that you can't keep, or then you're scrambling around because you really didn't know that you had a secondary thing together. Okay? Any questions on any of this so far?
So if you miss something, do you roll it over?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, one second, go ahead.
So if you miss something, do you like roll it over? Do you have a?
Yes, the question was, if you miss something, do you roll it over into a different time frame? Yes, absolutely, because I mean, again, this is a guideline for me, right? Like, I try to stay at it, but there's times when stuff happens, we've got to attend to it, or something runs into the next, and if we miss it, at your time of the day where you are, sorry, let me roll down a little bit. At your time of the day when you're doing your follow-up from the day, or what happens tomorrow, that's when you go back and say, okay, did I miss this activity? Let's schedule it in for tomorrow. When can I fit that back in, right? And sometimes, like, you just know you're gonna miss it, so I actually even go in here and I put in what I was doing for those 2 hours or that different period of time, so I can look back and say, how efficiently was I using my time? Why, or you know what I mean? You can go back and analyze that and figure out how you can make changes and do better, right? This?
Oh, I just wanted to find out, just kind of overviewing, sitting back here
Yeah.
and looking at your life. What is blue? What is purple? What is yellow? What is
Okay, it can literally be whatever you want, but for me, the blue is my activities that are in the office, right? Like my lead gen time, my meetings with my team, etc. The orange are my appointments, so like when I need to be out of the office or something I definitely cannot miss, right? Let me scroll this back down here. These red things, red things is things that I cannot miss at all, okay? So first off, this one's snack for the baseball. I don't know how it got to be red. This one's this one's date night with my wife, and we can't miss that at all either, so I gotta make sure we see that, okay? But the purple is, something that I would like to do, but if I miss it, it's not that big of a deal, right? I've even got my car washes plugged in at 8 a.m. on Mondays and Fridays. If I miss that, I have an appointment, that's okay, right? But it's something that I know that I could fill in as well. My yellows are like my kind of personal things that I do that I do want to do it, but sometimes if I have to miss it, maybe not. I'm not going to miss a baseball game. I coach, right? But the team party afterwards, I might show property if that comes up. So for me, color coordinating things like really helps me visually see what it is. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions at this point? Yes.
I don't see any room for meals.
Well, we just eat at the desk. Typically, I meal prep and I bring my meals to the office. There's times when I don't get a chance to do that, or I got too busy or lazy and I didn't do it. I usually, typically I'll eat like 2-3 times a day. If I meal prep, otherwise I just try to fit it in, running down and grabbing a bite. But I don't go out to lunch unless it's with a client or there's some sort of business opportunity happening there. Usually I eat like on the go.
I was just wondering how realistic is it in the sense, but I guess you just fit it in. When
Yeah, I mean,
can.
you gotta
Yeah.
eat, right? So it's like, okay,
Right.
I'll take a break. I try to leave little holes, here and there in 15-minute increments. And, again, it's not a perfect system, but at least you kind of have it set up to where, you have a plan and an agenda, and if you miss it, you can always go back. I mean, again, there's being structured and there's being structured,
Yeah.
right? And there's times when I was really structured and I was losing my mind, right? I was mad at myself for not hitting these goals. I was mad at myself for being off of my schedule, and I was probably not that fun to be around, right? So I had to figure out how to loosen it up a little bit, putting a lot of pressure on myself, and it took me a year or two to actually figure that part out, and I feel a lot happier now. But again, we do have to keep that in mind. Any other questions at this point? No? Okay. So that's, what did I miss, Jason?
So far, we're doing great right now.
Okay.
Yeah, keep going.
So I'm basically about to wrap this up, okay? I guess the thing that I would say is that the discipline, we have to create a business for ourselves, right? You don't have to be the agent doing 100 transactions. Figure out the business that you want to do for yourself, but figure out who you need to be to do that type of business. And whatever you wanted to do, so there's a quote this morning I sent out to my team. It said, "Nothing great ever came from somebody who was not disciplined." I may have butchered that up a little bit. But again, if you're trying to create a business, you have to be serious about it. You've got to put your steps into place, your activities, your business building, your structure. Otherwise, it's going to be chaos. You're not going to be happy, and most likely your business will fail, just depending on the type of business that you want. But it's about you. It's about what you want to build it to, and committing to yourself to make that extra effort every single day and week to make that happen. Okay? So the things that I wanted to leave you with, I've got 8 things, okay, that I want, like some takeaways that I want to leave you with, okay? And forgive me, I'm going to read these. I didn't memorize them. I just kind of jotted them down as I was finishing up here. So the key to your success is your ability to make the decision that you are ready to achieve it, no matter what that is. It's about it, right? Then do whatever it takes and not letting anyone or anything get in your way. Keep your mindset positive that you can achieve what you want to, and don't let people drag you down or out of the way. Again, keep a strong mindset and work on it every single day. There's a lot of things in this business that will detour your mindset, stress, frustration, drama, all these different things. If you let it get to you, I mean, for me personally, wasn't a happy person. Once you figure that out, like you'll do a lot better. So be consistent in your lead gen and activities, right? Remove the bell curve. That is the biggest thing that I think helped me feel more confident about myself and my business, is when I started getting a more consistent business, okay? Number 4, create an amazing routine to support your success. So when I say be who you need to be, like you need to create a routine around that. Like, who is the person that's going to achieve the type of success or the business that I want, and create a routine or an environment that supports that. Surround yourself with accountability partners, people who are serious about their business. If there's family members who are down, or I mean just anybody, get rid of them or just don't talk to them that often. You know what I mean? It will really help you in the long run. I'm not kidding. I removed a serious portion of my family for at least a year just so I could get my mindset straight. And it was the best thing I ever did. Very hard, but best thing I've ever done. You were never too good to learn something new and practice, okay? Believe it or not, our top performing agents, they do or they should be practicing at all times. I do, like, we have to script practice, we have to keep learning, keep reading. The one thing I want to interject actually that I didn't go over is about learning and reading. So I found this great invention. It's called Audible. Anybody heard of it? So I don't read. I never did. I think the last book I fully read was in 3rd grade, and I know that sounds terrible, but I just didn't have the time, the focus, or whatever to actually sit down and read, right? So the thing is that what my coach had challenged me to do is stop listening to music in the car and be putting in my head positive something, whether it's motivational, whether it's business, whether it's, I'm listening to a book right now, the guy's talking about scripting. Response to script A number 7, blah, blah, blah. It's the most boring thing ever, but you're gonna pick up 1 or 2 things, and I'm not like really paying attention to it, but it's just subliminally going into my head, and then I find myself saying the most random stuff that the guy just said in the book, right? So I would recommend trying to do that, okay? So the other thing is, be an example for your clients, the other agents. We need to set a new bar of professionalism and respect for our industry. So my biggest challenge now, and has been, I think, and at times had become a lot more, bullish about this, but there's so many other agents that are infiltrating our business right now that don't have the passion, don't have the respect, and really are muddying the waters and creating a bad name, I feel, for our industry, right? And whether it's another agent or those clients or whatever the case, like I said, we have to be the rock. And even like I have sometimes a temper, but I've got to just make sure to keep it honed, right? Because when we're strong for our clients, or if we get stressed out and we're talking all this stuff, they accept that as part of their mindset as well, right? Then they become angry and they become this. And I found that I was interjecting my own BS into their mindset. And then when I stopped, I was the rock. Hey, well, here's the situation. What do you want to do? They did the opposite of what I thought that they would do, right? And they'll, so you never know what your clients are going to do, but you need to be the person who's not stressed out, giving them the solutions. And as well with the other agents, like, let's just set a better, higher standard. Let's be nicer to each other. Okay, so one thing I did this year, because of things that I've learned and I hadn't been happy with myself and how I've handled these things previously, this year I started giving a bottle of wine to every agent on the other side, okay? I had to write some really weird letters to people I had a horrible transaction with, but we still did it, right? And it's because I want to try to just, hey, look, maybe we just unlaced the gloves. It was a terrible transaction or whatever the case. We had to argue and negotiate and everything else. But here's a bottle of wine. We're all professionals. Let's keep it that way, right? Okay, so the next thing is take time take time to rest, reset, and reflect. There's so much stress and different things that we deal with in our, in our industry, in our lives. And again, I've worked 7.5 days a week, 14-hour days, and I did not come out of it with any more clients or any better than I was. In fact, it was probably worse. So for me, it's the gym time. For you, it could be a day off, it could be yoga, whatever. The thing is, just do something for yourself so you can continue to reflect, rest, and sharpen the axe in which we need to use every day, and that's really our brains and our mouths. Okay, so number 8, this kind of goes to goal setting, but do something every week that scares the shit out of you. And excuse me for my French again, but the thing is, we've got to get outside of our comfort zone, right? Like, no money is made. Like, we could probably sit here and do a few transactions every year, and if we don't do something like go knock that door of that scary person that hung up on us, okay? Or make the call to this client that you're not sure really wants to talk to you, but it just scares you. Just do something at least once a week that gets you out of your comfort zone, okay? And your business will grow, I promise you that. Okay, the 3 things that I wish I had learned earlier or done differently. So dream bigger. I thought I had big dreams. I've been setting bigger goals and bigger goals every year. I was scared to do that, but I found that not right away, but within 2 or 3 years period of time, the big goals that I set back then have actually started to materialize, okay? So let's get out of our comfort zone, set bigger expectations for ourselves, bigger goals. I wished I had changed my mindset sooner to eliminate the self-sabotage. So we all have a little bit of that in us, and for me, there was a lot of self-sabotage, back in the earlier days, that I'm so glad that I got over it, and once I did, my business took off, right? And I was a happier person mentally and physically, and my business actually went better. But figure out what that is for you, and develop a strong mindset around it to change that. And like as Jason said, I wrote down here, get a coach or a mentor that aligns with your goals. We all don't need to pay for coaching. A lot of people do. I do. I have for like 7 years, right? For me, it helps. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, but it's aligning yourself with other people that are like-minded in your business and with your aspirations to help pull you to the top. There's going to be a lot of people in your lives, whether professionally or personally, that are going to try to hold you back. They don't want to see you succeed for whatever reason, and they could be your best friend. It doesn't matter. But surround yourself with the people or the mentors, or like find the person who's at your next, maybe 2 levels above where you're at. If you get somebody 10 levels above where you're at, it's just not going to make a whole lot of sense. You won't be able to keep up, and you'll just, it'll go the opposite direction. But 1 or 2 levels above where you're at, and try to connect with that person, learn as much as you can, whether it's your mentor, a coach, or whatever the case. It's hard to do this business alone, right? And once I started surrounding myself with those like-minded people, like again, there's networking groups, accountability groups. There's different things that don't cost any money that you can align yourself with to help progress your business. So I didn't go the full hour, but
No, I've got some questions though. So
yeah.
we're gonna keep
So
going.
I'm done for
Yeah.
now. But definitely here to take some
Let me throw some questions out that we as new agents experience on a regular basis. So we have people who just started this week in here, and we have people who've been here for 16, 17, 18 months now who are getting ready to graduate the program. I think one of the things that we do is we get down on ourselves. We get really hard down on ourselves. Sure. And one of the issues we have, let's say, we got a great lead off the open house, and it seems like they're really involved with us, and it looks like we might be able to do a deal together, and then we never hear from them again. It's that up and down feeling that we're having. But one of the things that I want to go over with you is, do you ever give up on that lead? And even if they don't call or email you back or text you back, are you staying on top of that? Are you staying consistent and following through until they either work with you or tell you, no, thank you, we're done, we're moving on?
Right. So yes, so again, going back to systems, you have to have a system in place that's going to remind you to call that person. I think I have at least 2 now. Top Producer. I use another lead generation website that has a back-end system to it. But the thing is like, yes, you have to have that follow-up, and it's important more immediately to really stay in front of that person and either make them tell you no, you know what I mean? There's no opportunity for transaction, or maybe. But you have to remember, most people that we meet, especially from an internet lead or even open houses, they're such at the beginning stage of their process, and they're just looking for a little information. And I think that by nature, people are like really standoffish about real estate agents. There's just so many people trying to grab their business. and we have to build a rapport and give them value, right? Calling them every day and asking them to buy a house is not going to build rapport or get you that client. However, something like, oh hey, here's some information about the market that maybe you didn't know, you know what I mean, about this particular area. Hey, here's my value proposition, just showing them that you are more than just somebody trying to write up an offer for them. But at the end of the day, like there's very few that we actually completely give up on, and actually right now we're going through our database and just trashing out a lot of stuff, people that I'm like mailing to that haven't responded in like 3 years. So yes, you do want to narrow your focus to the people who are more gonna be ready to transact, maybe within 3 to 6 months. But again, don't give up on those people. Just put them on a recurring reminder and call them every 3 months, every 6 months, just reminding people. Some of the deals that we're pulling out have been in there for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, and finally they're ready to transact. Hey, you continue on.
So
Yes.
can I just say something? One thing that I learned in the organization I'm part of is just because a client says no to you right now, it doesn't mean it's a no forever.
Right.
So that's
I've had people tell me I'm working with an agent. Okay, great. Follow up. How's it working out for you? Oh, it's going great. How's it working out for you? Follow up. You know what? That agent actually sucked and never called me back, but I want to buy this house and let's go out and do it. Okay? So I mean, you got to stay with people. We obviously don't want to be the people that are just hounding and making it really annoying. That's why I'm trying to bring value or just respecting the people. But at the end of the day, if you call them a year later, hey, did you ever buy that house? No, you ready? Well, yeah, actually, we're just talking about it. So.
But you have to ask for it. You got to ask for that business, and you actually have to put it out there, right?
That's right.
They're not just going to hand it to you.
Well, and that's that one thing that scares you that you're gonna do is asking for the business. Like we're there, people see us there. They're gonna see our mailers, our flyers, our emails, whatever the case. Unless you say, hey, would you like to sit down for a cup of coffee, or let's talk about what your goals are? I'm here for you. Like people want to know that we care about them and their situations and their families, and we're helping them. We're not just trying to make a buck.
The longest I ever incubated a lead before they bought something from me, 4.5 years.
Oh, there you go.
And I saw her on my website on a regular basis. I'd reach out to her every couple of months, and finally she got married, had a kid, and wound up buying a property from me, which she's very happy about, even though she bought it the most expensive ever in that complex. It's now gone up another $150,000, and she's only owned it for 2 years. So she's very happy about it. But it took 4.5 years of me just occasionally checking in with her saying, hey, I saw you were on my website, just wanted to reach out. You ready to go looking yet? Nothing. But she kept going, so I knew she was looking, and I kept following up on a regular basis. And when she was ready, she reached out to me. And I think I've heard stats that most agents, a lot of those agents who pay for Zillow leads, only really contact those leads 2 or 3 times, and then they give up.
Yeah.
And I think the stat is something like 70% or more will work with the agent they spoke with last, or someone that they're seeing in their inbox or their voicemail on a consistent basis, even if it is 8, 10, 12 months down the road, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you keep track, because Tom Ferry, because I'm also in Tom Ferry, it's like you have to do 8 to 10 touches, right, before they see it?
So what I've done in one of my lead generation systems is we've built in I think it's a 6-week, 4-week follow-up program, and like the first week is pretty heavy, and then it like backs off a little bit, and that's like a combination of emails, phone calls, text. I don't think that we count, or there's like we're kind of using we blended a lot of different systems, right? Like 10 days of pain, really hard at them. But we've built in some automated features because again, sometimes getting to them in a couple of minutes is just not going to work, So we have like an automated text that goes out. There's an email that goes out also. We're calling as soon as we can. You're either going to reach them within that first, ideally they say 5 minutes, right? And if they're still on the website, yes, they answer every single time. But if you wait and you miss like a half hour later, like we've gone 3 or 4 days and not, got any contact, and then reaching out 30 or 60 days later, they answer the phone, oh yeah, I've been getting your emails, thanks, it's working well. Now they're ready to have a conversation, right? And so that's why like not giving up in that first week is really important. Yes?
I'm curious about referrals. I didn't really hear. I would think with all that you build that you would have a tremendous base of referrals, and then I don't know about all of you, but I always come across people that tell me after years they're almost exclusively relying on referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. So a majority of my business is referrals, and it was at like 85% was referrals a couple years ago, and now that's probably down to like maybe 70%. But because of now we have a lot more other lead systems trying to funnel into that. But I get repeat referrals all the time. I will say that my referral business last year went down tremendously because I started. I mean, it's kind of a weird story. I don't know if I should even focus on it. It wasn't because I wasn't paying attention to them. It was the type of marketing and stuff that I was doing and marketing I was focusing on, trying to break into the luxury business, right? So here's a big mistake. You guys want to know? Okay. So I don't want to say it's a big mistake, but since I started working at Sotheby's, and that was in 2012, I think, actually 13, okay? My goal was to, increase my price point, get into the luxury market, and just, continue to build my business. And that went really, really well, right? Like, so for the first year, I think I increased my price point from like 650,000 to like over $1.1 million, and it's $1.05 million that first year, and it's been right around $1 million, $1.1 million ever since. The last 2 years, we did a lot of marketing for luxury, trying to really bring in those clients. I do follow up with a lot of my clients, but there was a point when I was like, okay, well, we all know each other. We're friends now. Like, I love them, and I was, focusing on just building this other business. Well, they saw me like in helicopters, marketing these big fancy homes. Well, the thing is, all the homes that we were selling in 700, 800, 900 million would sell so quickly. We didn't have the opportunity to market them all over the place like the larger ones that would take a lot longer, right? So that's all they saw. Well, I literally a client called me and was like, well, hey, I just thought I would give you just check in, like we were pretty close and I haven't talked to you in a long time, but I was about to sell my house and I just you don't want to sell my house anymore, right? It's only going to be like 450,000. I was like, why would I want to sell your house? Well, you're doing all this, you're doing all that, and that's all that they were seeing. And I was like, shit. And then the next 2 weeks, two other circumstances, somebody else listed their house without me, and another person almost did as well. And they're like, well, we were out fine. We just didn't think you wanted to bother selling our house. I'm like, time out, I'm doing something wrong, okay? Like, so this last year we made a deliberate focus to go out and make sure that we were reaching out to, all kind of ends of the market and those past clients and calling them and talking with them all the time. Some of them act like they're annoyed that I'm calling them, and I just try not to not asking for a referral every time, but I had been doing that, and I was just not getting those sort of results. They would always send them to me, so I kind of got a little lazy on that part and was focused on a lot of other lead generation activities. But the point is that yes, we have to continue to focus on our past clients, our sphere, the people who transacted with us in the very beginning. You should grow your business by 25% of every home you closed the year before. You should get that many, 25% more referrals each year, I think is the number. And when I went back, my business actually had that growth pattern, right? And then when I started to see it fall off, I was trying to figure out why, and then it all occurred, right? So don't ever let them go. You always have to go back to those clients. You got to talk with them. You've got to touch them, because again, we can build a business over time, right? That can support us without having to do all the calls, all the mailers, all the all whatever the case. And I'm not saying stop all that stuff, but it has been proven that people can build that type of business. Yes.
Can you talk about some kind of lead systems that you use or that you like to use, and maybe some options that you
Let me jump in
consider?
with that real fast.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
as a newer agent, I may not have a big sphere to work with, or I'm new to the area and I don't have a sphere at all. My paycheck, I don't have one, haven't had one in a while. I'm tight with money.
Yeah.
What are the best ways to spend my time throughout the week trying to generate that lead? Because I realize I can learn contracts, I can learn ethics, etc., but really 90% of this business, especially starting out, in my opinion, is lead generation.
Right.
How do I generate that lead if I'm tight with money and I don't have a sphere?
Okay, so great question. So for me, it was about open houses. And what I would recommend for you guys, there's nothing that says you can't do an open house 7 days a week, okay? When I started Prudential, Vincent Morris, who's another great agent in our company, he was doing open houses like throughout the entire week. He just moved here, I think, from Utah, and I was like, man, what's this guy doing, like open houses all week? He started an incredible business just from that, okay? And that's how I closed my first probably 10, 12, 15 transactions, right? But when you're in the open house, you have to be deliberate about your conversations with people and keep that script practicing going, because not every person that comes in is an opportunity, right? We have a lot of people will come in that aren't, right? But we're looking for the few who like just emanate some sort of opportunity that we connect with, we can help them, they're open to speaking with us, and the more that you kind of pull out of them the questions posed in the right way, the open house is going to be the least expensive, you know, it's just your time essentially, right? And you can do that 7 days a week. The other thing that I think right now is if you can figure out how to do some, like, Facebook ads are super cheap. Now I'm not saying that they're like highly, you know, you're gonna capture a high number of them, but if you can figure out a way to do it just enough to where leads are starting to come in, like you have a certain niche, and drive them to a landing website. Like I recall I had one little landing website and I was using Craigslist at the time. I closed a $1.5 million transaction in 2010 in Poway. You know, just random stuff starts happening that way. But you gotta get out there, right? The other thing that I used to do, and stop me if this is not okay, but the other thing that I used to do was circle dials in neighborhoods where my company at the time was Prudential. I would literally call around the neighborhood and be like, hey, our company just sold a house down the street from you. Have you ever thought of, listing or selling? Not a whole lot of people were actually doing that at that time, right? And I did take a couple listings from that, or get certain clients from that.
I'm actually pushing my team to do that now. It's like geographic circle dialing.
Yeah.
Right? A property that just listed, you can call and say, hey, this property down the street just listed. Do you know anybody who's interested in moving into the neighborhood? Here's your chance to pick your neighbor. Right? It's an opportunity.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be your company, right? But you just, obviously you don't want to give the wrong information that it's your listing, but you can say, hey, our company just listed down the street, right? Have you had any thoughts of selling? There's a house that just listed down the street from you, and you know what? Statistics say that, one or two of the neighbors happen to sell right after that, okay? What if I found somebody who wanted that house and, or was interested in that home, but they wanted something different? Would you be willing to sell? 49 of them are going to hang up on you and tell you to go, take a walk off the Oceanside Pier. One person will say yes, okay? And we're looking for that one, right? And as much as I hate to say it, the real estate business is about numbers, okay? There's so many agents out there. There's so many prospective buyers or sellers. But if you're not out talking to that many people, and if you're a newer agent, it's more likely like 1 in 100, okay? Like 47, like 1 out of 47 is some of the, high producing top earners in like the Tom Ferry organization. I think that's their numbers, right? So say you got to talk to 100 people, one's going to say yes. So say thank you 99 times when they tell you to go pound sand, and then that next person's like, yes, that next door, they're going to say yes, and that's got to be our mindset.
And don't be afraid for them to say no or pound sand.
That's right, because you know what, we have to put ourselves out there to fail to make any sort of progress.
And to convert those leads when they are coming into the open house, you're fairly educated on that property, even if it's not your own that you're holding open, correct?
Yes.
And in the market as well, right?
You have to be, right? Because we have to add value. So when they start talking to you about, okay, so another quick little story. Some of my best clients that are still buying properties from me today, they walked into an open house. I was telling them about the home. They go, yeah, no, this isn't it. And these were the people that would buy a home with any agent that's at the open house. They didn't care about, loyalty to anybody. But I told, you know what, this isn't the house for you. Well, you know what, there's actually one just down the street that's the same, that's kind of similar to what you're talking about, et cetera, et cetera. I finished up the open house. They met me there like an hour later. I showed them the home. We bought it. And they've bought 7 properties from me since then. And that was like maybe 5 years ago. And so knowing what else is out on the market, what else is in the neighborhood, that's why going to caravans and previewing properties and all those things that sometimes feel like a waste of time is super important, because it's going to be that one. Somebody says, you know what, I want this. You're like, yes, I know this property. And then you're going to be the educated agent, as opposed to the last person that they talked to in the open house that literally didn't even know anything about the property.
I want to go back to the open house. Oftentimes we hear they are working with an agent. A lot of times they're saying it just because they don't want us to bug them, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that's worked for us on our team is that if we do establish a rapport while they're walking through and we're having a conversation with them, one of the things that we say is, if we find the property for you, would you let us write the offer? We have to ask for it, because we know if we don't, they're not just going to give us the business. Is that something that you do as well?
Absolutely. So, I mean, look, we don't want to step on anybody's toes. We're not out here to be cutthroat or whatever the case. And if someone's legitimately working with somebody, that's totally fine. There's plenty of clients, right? But at the end of the day, like, you have to think about it as walking into a department store on a car lot when the salesperson comes out and says, do you need anything? You're like, no, I'm just looking for myself. You know what I mean? That's just our natural automatic response to everything. But through a series of like well-placed questions and trying to understand more about them, you know, we don't want to be like the Grand Inquisitor, but like if you have the scripts set up, you can continue to talk with them and drag information out of them, and they'll start to realize that you're professional, you care about them, and then you ask for the business. Like Jason said, it's a great line, I don't want to call it a line, it's a great conversation, right? If we found the offer, people in this day and age right now, when inventory is so scarce, they almost don't care about their agents anymore. They're like, you know, whoever can get me the house, because they see no value in the people that they're working with or the other people that they've come across. So if you know, if they think that you have the gold, then they will come, well, yeah, sure, if you find something, send it to me. Okay, well, if I send it to you, will you work with me? You gotta have them commit to you, and then try to get them out for coffee, you know, then continue to build a rapport and show them value, that you know the area, there's reason why that they should work with you, not just because I can write up the offer. But it's a good starting point.
When you first got started back in 2007, they were coming off of the big boom back then, right? 05,
Yeah.
06, 07, and 8 and 9 were ugly. 10 and 11, you know, it started picking up again. In 12, how many deals did you do when you first got to the business?
So my first year was 6 transactions. My first transaction, they came into an open house. I ended up listing their house and selling them another one concurrently. It was the most chaotic transaction ever for me to be like, okay, I got a client, what next? I had no idea what I was doing. But, and then on top of it, try to close them at the same time. It worked out. They're still clients. They bought another home from me. But the first 2 years, I think I've closed 6 transactions, and then it went to like 10, 12, 20, 24.
Then you picked up those first 6 just from open houses.
All open houses.
So some of them could even turn into, because I say about a third of them who walk into our open house, a third of the buyers are also sellers, and then there's my chance to get a listing.
That's right.
Yeah. So you got business that way. Door knocking's been huge for us. It's something that we're really doing a lot of right now, and we've gotten a couple of listings out of it.
Yeah.
We've actually found some buyers out of it. When you are marketing or farming to an area, again, we're tight with money. Billy Egan has introduced us to EDDM Plus. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's print advertising. It's like 39 cents for print and mail.
He said EDDM Plus, which is a mailing system basically through the post USPS.
Yeah, every door direct, yeah,
yeah.
something like that. It's bulk mailing, but it's probably the most inexpensive I've seen.
Yeah.
If you were a new agent just starting out again and you had maybe a couple $100 a month, would you be farming a neighborhood? Would you be mailing to a neighborhood? And then if you were, how would you also be following up with that neighborhood? Are you door knocking? Are you trying to get open houses in that area, et cetera?
It's a good question. I have a couple of mixed opinions on that right now, and I'm not going to share the other thing with you. But in terms of only having a couple $100, it's really, look guys, they're not going to call you on your mailer. That's just the reality of it. And they're not going to call you on, you know, most of them aren't going to call you on the newspaper ad. They need to like know you, like you, trust you before. And our best asset, I think, is our handshake and our smile, right? And most people are going to be really guarded if you come knock on their door, because there's a lot of crazy people that do that, and it's becoming more and more frequent. And so people just won't answer the door, whatever the case. But again, it's that providing value. When we talk about going into a neighborhood and like what pieces are we going to bring, it's, you know, invitations to open houses are great. If you're going to do an open house, it's like you don't have to do anything super fancy, just like a slightly nice cardstock, an invitation to the open house. Walk around the neighborhood, knock door. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not selling you anything. I'm inviting you over for an open house. We're having sandwiches on Sunday. You want to come check it out? Like, that's the easiest, best way. It's an easy conversation. Like, everyone's like, oh, sandwiches, great. You know, they're super happy about it. And then once, you know, they might engage in conversation. What's the market like? What's this like? I mean, be prepared for all those things, but that's how you convert that. And then if they come into the open house, then they're even more serious, right? Very rarely people, I mean, it happens, right? But very rarely is somebody gonna open the door and say, yes, sell my house. So there's, you know, there's a fair amount of, you know, dating that you're gonna have to do, you know, in that to convert that client. But, you know, getting out there, if I had no money, I would get out there. Oh, what I was saying was the pieces that we bring out there are adding value, right? So we're talking, like Greg and I were talking about a neighborhood that he wants to farm. And so we're talking about like, you know, quarter one, quarter one market updates. I was like, what's important to the people, not just you. Like, how do you set yourself apart from the rest of the community here? Like, believe it or not, nobody knows that there's a marketing plan, and most agents don't have one. So like, oh hey, I do professional photos, video, 5 pieces out in the neighborhood. Wow, somebody actually does that. These are like, I bring value type pieces that you're dropping at the door, and that what I feel is the best, because you're gonna separate yourself from the rest of the agents out there that are door knocking or doing open houses or whatever the case.
But you do like door knocking.
I do.
You said your weekday starts, or the beginning of your week starts on Saturday, right? So Saturday and Sunday, obviously the best times to do open houses. You'll get the most people out usually because people are off from work. We can still hold them during the week. If we do, try to hold them in a busy area where you're gonna get a lot of drive-by traffic or walk-by traffic.
If you have a school, like if you're right around a school, like 2:30 to 3, or even be there at 2, so when people show up a little early to pick up, they can stop by, maybe right afterwards.
If you were to take a day off during the week, Monday through Sunday, as a real estate agent, when would you take off?
Personally, so I used to try to take off Monday because I thought that was a day that nobody's, but then I found myself catching up on Monday. Like, Mondays are kind of an important day just to get our week off right. I really haven't found the right day to take off. Me personally, I'm trying to take off Sundays. Like, now I kind of take off Saturdays because that's our day that we play baseball, and I'm with my son and my family. I will go show properties afterwards or first thing in the morning. But if I could plan it around, I would like to take off Sunday and just spend it with the family doing nothing. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like, there's a certain point in my career and my bank account that I want to be at before I really get firm about that.
What about the community and school sponsorships? Have you done that, and do you feel that it, kind of just reminded everyone that you're out there and you have the service you provide?
Absolutely.
Did it help?
So there's 2 things about our lead generation, right? There's marketing or branding, and there's the lead generation. So from the school sponsorships and stuff, like, I don't expect that that's my lead generation. I'm not there like asking for people's contact information. It's about putting the face to the name, building rapport, and then they start talking to you, and then that's different. So right now at my son's school, my wife runs the running club, and so I'm there every Tuesday with coffee for the parents and bagels for the kids, and bananas or whatever else, with my sticker on the coffee box. And so when all the parents come up, they just see it, and we talk about real estate, right?
Yeah.
I do other sort of sponsorships around the school. Like, there's an area that I farm, and I've again, you got to kind of find, like, where are those people also going? Are they going to the gym? Are they going to grocery store? Or, whatever. Is there a festival that you kind of get into it? And yes, like, we're being a lot more deliberate about the kind of farming that we're doing around those neighborhoods. But yes, my kids cost me enough money already. I'm gonna use them to make more if I can. Okay? And not in a bad way, but I'm just saying, like, if
and mine want that too.
Yeah, right. Like, so I sponsor all their baseball teams. My name goes on the back of 12 jerseys that actually I sponsor 3, and so there's 36 jerseys that parents are washing twice a week. That they're out at games. There's 2 different sets of eyes. So there's 24 people or parents looking at all the back of that jersey every single. And I do baseball, soccer, whatever. And the parents are, at the end, I sponsor like a pizza party or something. And because we always don't get a lot of time to hang out with the parents and try to lead generate. But then we get a chance to meet them at the end or through the middle, and it's all about relationships, right?
I have a question. Oh,
Yeah.
Would you mind commenting on what you think is the best time frame for an open house? I know a lot of people do 1 to 4, but
Yeah.
the residential area near a school, near work. I have an open house I'm doing that's near schools and near a business area. So I'm thinking about kind of doing it later in the day.
So in the summertime, like, the busiest time that I found is really that 3 to 4 hour window. So we try to kind of tick it up to 5 o'clock. And maybe start a little bit earlier. I've done open houses at all different times. I think it's more time of year and then the timing, right? So in the wintertime, you probably want to do a 12 to 3, because people are just out at that time. They're typically trying to get home before the sun goes down. I don't think that there's any better time to do an open house than, obviously during the week, you want to try to schedule it around where the opportunity is. But like, let's say you know the area and there's baseball all day, but it ends at 3. Like, then you might be there 12 to 3. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking in this particular one, it's a business park, it's a lot of commuters, and so that's why I was trying to head toward the 5.
Commuter time.
But I don't know if 6 is too late, 6 at night, you know?
You know, I've actually never done an open house that late. I've like usually stopped at 5. Actually, I have done some like invitational open houses and sundowners and things like that, but usually that's not like a whole lot of drive-by traffic.
And if you don't mind me asking, I went to an open house and somebody had champagne. What is your feeling about, you know,
No booze.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know the rule for Sotheby's.
We don't
but-
want anybody getting into an accident. No.
Yeah, it's high liability. The only time I would serve alcohol is like at an invitational open house, like a I don't want to call it a broker open because that's against our rules too. But
Sunset soiree.
yes,
So the rule with alcohol, if I can.
yeah, please.
So the Sotheby's and also NAR's rules, or at least CAR's rules, is no alcohol during business hours. If you are going to be doing a sunset soiree, you have to have someone that's licensed to serve alcohol. So I think it's called an ABC card or something like that. But you have to have that because they'll have insurance and they know what they're doing. We can't take the liability of serving someone and then having them go get in an accident.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I have seen open house. This weekend I was in one. They were serving champagne to everybody. I was like, whoa, good luck with that, buddy. All right.
Food and drinks at open houses. One of my rules is always, if you're gonna serve drinks, make sure they don't stain. If you're gonna serve food, make sure they don't crumb.
Yeah.
Right? Do you do that at your open houses?
I have served lots of different types of food and beverage, and yes, I mean I agree with all those things. The thing that I found about food, like I used to do a taco, like I don't want to call it a taco cart, but like taco bar essentially at the open houses. And now I serve sandwiches just for different reasons. But I think food gets people to it'll get them there. Okay, if you invite the neighborhood. B, it gets them to stop for a second while they're eating their sandwich or whatever that you're serving them. Hopefully it takes more than 30 seconds to eat. But like, as they're sitting around the home, they can go, wow, you know what? I actually didn't notice this particular thing about the environment. Like, it's so quiet out here. I didn't notice this really cool benefit about the house or feature or something. They just gives them time to stop and like fall in love with it. And I used to tell people tacos sell real estate, and my clients would be like, no, don't serve any tacos at my house. We'd always have it outside, obviously, but I found it actually does really help.
I did virgin margaritas once and people loved it. It was just a great conversation.
That's right. There's no wrong way to generate it, everybody, right? There's just, you gotta just do something to bring people in. Yes?
What are some of those series of questions that you ask at an open house, or also part of the initial follow-up from an open house? Just some of the leads, especially that you consider, kind of a great potential.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, there's a couple scripts for that, but you really want to understand, like, so what's prompting the move? What brings you in today? You want to start to understand their motivation, then kind of what they're looking for, and time frame. Those are the 3 things that I would really focus on up front, like through a different kind of series of questions. Not everyone's going to respond differently, but you want to work it into conversation, right? Not just, hang on, time out. You know what I mean? That's why having the scripting is there, so in conversation you can work it out, and you can just, if they're not motivated, they don't have a time frame, and there's no reason why they came in that day, cool, look at the house and I'll wait for the next person.
And then how do you follow up for those stronger leads for the next few days, at least, with the next initial?
Usually I try to call them next day, at least Monday, and just say, hey, thanks for coming into the open house, really appreciate it. How'd you think about the house? Do you think that might be something that would work for you? Like, no, we're really looking for something different, but I appreciate the phone. Oh, really? So tell me what that is. You really want to try to stay on the straight line about what you're trying to understand from them, and that's motivation, timing, and and kind of what they're looking for. Because if they're not going to give you any of that, they're probably not going to give you a whole lot. They may not be a client, right? And so you want to continue to follow up with them, maybe not be overly annoying, but you want to build rapport and try to set like a coffee appointment, or at least start to really understand. If they'll give you what they want, in a home, and it makes sense, and they have motivation, that is a strong client to follow up with.
So which way do you recommend for those, especially some of those that are half sellers, buyers?
So again, in this market, it's really hard to do a contingent sale and a buy, right? So you might have dialogue set up about that, and just understand, like, well, so do you have to sell before you buy? okay, you do. You know, that's actually really, you know, kind of a challenge in our market, but we've been successful before. Can we meet later to maybe talk about some of the strategies that we're using that other clients that we've had in the past have been successful with in doing that transition, right? You know, maybe can I come check out your house? Maybe I can help you understand what the value of that is. You want to, again, be giving them value and helping them understand that they can't just walk in and say, you know, I'm just going to wait until I find the right house and I'll list it the next day and we'll just move in. Like, it just typically doesn't happen that way. But most people don't know that.
You touched on something, time frames. I think time frames and price point right now are directly related to each other. And this market's booming, as it has been for the last few years. We're at historical all-time lows with interest rates. And what I've noticed and discovered is that under $2 million price point, and this is sort of what I do to push my team. It's one of the reasons why we've been able to sell more properties quicker. But this is Sotheby's, and Eric Iantorno is actually one of the best, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best advertisements for new agents coming into the industry, because everybody sees this $200 million worth of listings, and they want to be in that business, and they want to sell that $10 or $15 million property. What they don't understand is it costs them $75,000 or $80,000 to market that property, and it took them 3 years to sell.
Per month.
Yeah, right, exactly. But what I've discovered is that everybody under that 2 million market, I'm going to use the number 1.7 and under, they seem to be really pushed by the interest rates. And they know there's a lack of inventory in those price points. And then once you get over that $2 million price point, I've noticed that the buyer tends to take a little bit longer, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years to really close that guy. But the time frames for those people under 2 million that I come across, they're 30, 60, 90 days out sometimes. Maybe they're 6 months out and they're just getting started, but they're the ones who are coming into that property right now. The least expensive property 2 weeks ago in Carmel Valley that was detached was $895,000. From the least expensive detached house to about 1.6 in Carmel Valley, there were 52 properties in escrow 2 weeks ago when I did that number, and there were about 42 detached properties that were still available on the market. To put that in perspective, Cardiff, from the least expensive detached to about 1.7, had 2 in escrow and 2 on the market, right? So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the areas. So one of the things I want to talk about here is being strategic about where you hold your open house, right? Don't just accept any open house that someone's maybe putting up on Blue, because it could be that condo that's been sitting there for 6 months and they just need somebody to hold it open. Be proactive, pull up the MLS, look at the Sotheby's listings, click on the days on market so that the properties are in ascending order from the quickest time or the earliest on the market being 0 days down to about 30 or further. It's fine. We get people walking into properties that have been on the market 50, 60 days, but in this market, under 2 million price point, they're moving pretty quick, within 3 weeks or less, right? You've seen that?
Typically, I think the last couple weeks felt a little slower.
A little slower, yeah, tax season.
Right, but you know, at the end of the day, yes, those are the properties that are selling, you know, a lot faster. I would also say, you know, to your point, if you're, you know, just because the property has been held open a couple of times or on the market a little bit longer doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Actually, sometimes it can be good if it's a second or third week, because all the neighbors and looky-loos have come through. So anybody else that comes through, you know, could be more serious, right? And it's not about the quantity. I mean, yes, we all like to say we had 100 people through our open house, or 10 or 20 or whatever the case, right? But it's not a bad open house if 5 or 6 people came through and you got to have really good quality conversations with at least 2 or 3 of those people. Because when you have a zoo of people around, you literally like, oh, that actually could be a client, but then this person's dragging me this way to answer some stupid questions and she's never gonna buy anything and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, yes, have a method to your madness, right? And I'm all about the 1.2 and under right now. I mean, we spent a lot of money last year marketing bigger properties, and you know, it's I mean, it's tough, you know. And but at the end of the day, we're here to, you know, to turn properties. You'll probably need 4 or 5 like average selling properties, and then you can work in 1 or 2 larger ones, you know, and have that be your bonus.
Yeah, for me, it's about getting the momentum going. Once I do that first deal and feeling confident, more confident about what I'm doing and seeing that it does work, everything that my mentors and my coaches and my managers are kind of hammering into me, it's finally starting to work. So when you're sitting there and you're working that $2.5 million buyer who really just doesn't feel the need to move very quickly, it's a little bit what's the word I want?
Disheartening?
Yeah, disheartening.
Yeah.
So I really want to be in a position where I'm going to be running into people on a regular basis. And we've been through markets where that $800,000 house took 4 months to sell.
Yeah.
And we held open houses for months on end where the highest number of people that would walk into an open house were 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And you better believe that if you're only getting 1 or 2 people walking into your open house, you're going to do everything you can to sell the shit out of them, really. Because that's your goal, is to sell them, show them that you're educated in the market, in that property, and that you're the one they should be working with, whether they're talking to somebody else or not. I guarantee that everybody who's walking into your open houses right now is getting emails from 5 different agents, most likely from Zillow and Redfin, right? Or whomever, wherever, and other open houses, because there are other good agents holding open houses, but they're getting at least 5 emails a day with the same properties over and over again. But what some of those agents aren't doing, which I think we can add value here, is to actually call the client when a property does come up in that search, that, and you have to be looking at those searches. I know a lot of you don't. You got to look at those searches. It's not enough to just put them on that automatic drip, but you've got to educate yourself in the market. If you think that property fits your client's criteria, call them up and get them excited. Hey, I just sent you a property, it came through the automatic drip. I've been in this property, it's amazing. I think it's everything you're looking for. Let's set up a time, maybe Thursday at 4 p.m. to go take a look at it. What do you think? Right? But you've got to go, you've got to get them excited, you've got to ask for that business. Am I correct?
That's right.
Something that we got to do more of. Go ahead.
How do you capture emails, phone numbers, legible information in your open houses?
I use Open Home Pro. It's an app for the iPad. And
Okay.
there's a few different types of them, I guess. That's just the one I use. I think it was $9 or $10. I personally think it looks a lot more professional to be able to have them do it. Some people
Do you
can't.
use the kiosk and everything to do that?
I just basically hold it, and when they
Oh,
walk in the
okay.
door, I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Mind signing in for me really quick?" I strategically put like the brochures, like a good 10 to 15 step walk behind. I'm like, "Oh, hey, thanks for coming in. Here, can you sign in for me really quick? Let me go get you the thing." So they have a minute to like start signing in before we're hammering them with questions, because they can't do 2 or 3 things at a time.
So you are pushing people to sign in before they walk into the property, like
Yeah.
right when they first walk in.
Like so.
And it's so
Do you ever
accurate.
not let them in if they won't sign in?
No, there actually has been a couple houses where like somebody just told you, "I'm not signing that," and they get all weird, and you're like, "Okay, like I don't really feel comfortable with you and your attitude right now. Like, so why are you here?" I mean, we have to be, consider our own safety and our client's safety, anyways. If you don't get a good feeling, so I've kicked those people out. If someone's like, "Oh, I don't want to give you my email. I'm just a neighbor or whatever," fine, I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to beat everybody up. I'm looking for the people who are like legitimately serious, and I try to take the, as much as I can.
You know what's worked for me is when somebody walks in, I'll tell them, the owners have requested that I have everybody sign in, so they know who's coming into their house, and it's never
It
fair.
usually never
Yeah.
is a problem. Sorry, you had a question as well. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jason Folkman. I am the director of the Mentor Program and the Del Mar Mentor. Just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out and listening to Gary Massa. As I figured it would be, it was a fantastic storyline of his origin story, as well as giving us some insightful information as to how to become successful. If you have any questions, please talk to your mentors first. My door is always open to you, and again, Gary's been nice enough to open up his door to us as well, so if you have any questions directly for Gary, please feel free to call or email him as well. Thank you, and looking forward to hearing from you in the future.